Good morning. Welcome to Morning Brew with your girl Germaine. And I do apologize. I am a few moments late. Yes, because I had to reboot my system to start all over again to be prepared. And so, but we're here. And hopefully, yes, my Instagram is working now because that's what took me so long. I had to reset the Instagram up for live. So, hey, Jesse Moss 92775. Thank you so much for showing up. And give me a moment while I get myself together so we can get into today's brew. My coffee, I literally just mixed it up. So there won't be any brewing this morning live. It's already mixed. But yes, so today's message is entrepreneur. Well, today's brew, let me say that. Entrepreneur mindset, everyday life. So, hey, Urban Bite Network, all the way from Houston. Good morning from Houston, Texas. Yes, that's my network. That's my partner. Good to have him on this morning. So, yes, this today we are going to be talking about entrepreneurs, the mindset to be able to step out on your own, to start your own business. And so we're going to get into it. And this might become a part of a series. But right now, let's start slow, taking a few sips before we dive right into the brew, right? So, but hold on, let me get this together. If you are out there chiming in, let me know what you're drinking. You guys already can guess if you follow Morning Brew and you're part of the community. You already know what I'm drinking, right? Hazelnut. Yes. Hold on. So I have my hazelnut this morning. Let me know what you're drinking. If you're drinking coffee, if you're a tea drinker, because this is not just for coffee. You don't have to just stop by for a cup of coffee. You can stop by for a cup of tea, a glass of water, or bottled water. Or maybe you want a smoothie, something cold. Iced coffee? I don't know. Whatever you prefer, okay? All I want you to do is just stop by for the conversation, chime in on the conversation. Hey, Leslie. Oh, I like this idea. What's happening? Tell me good morning and where you're from. I love that, guys. All right, Leslie, George, good morning from Florida. All right. All right, Jesse, let me see. Put it in there where you're from. I know, but So let's just chime in and let me know what part of the country or the world you're from. I love that idea where you're having coffee at with me or taking a break with me. So, but today it's about entrepreneurial mindset. All right. So, this is a topic that I absolutely love because I am an entrepreneur. I have an entrepreneurial mindset. I love being an entrepreneur. I love I loved when I fired my boss working in corporate America and I stepped out on my own to manage my own time, to free up my time and stuff. But we'll get into parts of my story because I like the idea of me being able to open up about my story through the different topics that we share, the different brews that I bring to you. Because as you know, the foundation of Morning Brew with Germaine is all about storytelling. So let's get into this. You don't need a business to think like a boss. You could be on somebody else's job and still be thinking like a boss, right? But I want to empower you to be an entrepreneur. Especially today, a lot of people are losing their jobs. And so you have to figure out, are you able to be an entrepreneur in this climate today? Or do you have what it takes? Because it's a lot more to it than just saying, you know what, I'm a boss. Trust me, it's a lot to it. I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 plus years. That means independently on my own, working for myself and not going punching a time clock, somebody else paying me a check. It's been independently. And let me be honest, it's not always easy. I'm going to be honest with you. But let's talk about it a little more, okay? So, the entrepreneurial mindset isn't just for CEOs. It's a life skill. It's about how you see problems, take initiative, create solutions, and manage your energy, your time, and your resources with intentionality. All of the above. Trust me. Whether you're at home in a corporate role or chasing your dream, This mindset turns everyday life into a platform for growth. So, you guys ready to grow? You ready to grow that entrepreneurial mindset? Now, let me ask you a question for those out there. How many of you out there right now have a desire to be an entrepreneur and you just don't know where to start? That's a question I want to leave out there with you. So if you are chiming in or if you're watching from afar, just ask yourself, are you one already an entrepreneur? And you can put these numbers in the chats if you decide to join in the community, right? So one, I'm an entrepreneur. Number two, I would like to be an entrepreneur. One is I'm an entrepreneur. Two, I would like to be an entrepreneur, right? If you can, just put it in the comments, one or two. And so, but let's get a little more into it. So, one, Leslie, yes, Leslie is an entrepreneur. Now, I'm going to add a third one, right? I'm an entrepreneur, but I still work for corporate or I still work for someone. So I'm an entrepreneur. This is number three. I'm an entrepreneur, but I still work for someone. And that's going to let me know that you are building your business while still employed because that's wise. Don't just step out and just start without having income coming in. We still have to survive, you know? So I was working for Diageo at the time, corporate company, when I decided to go full 100%. Now, working for Diageo, worked in the marketing department and everything. And I had been always building a business on the side. I've always built my management business on the side. At the time I was at Diageo, I had not yet started my publishing business. So I'm going back more than 20 years, right? So, but I've always, as people call it, or now have it's been co-opted, I've always had a side hustle because I have a entrepreneurial mindset. My mom used to always say, girl, there's only 24 hours in a day. You cannot do everything. Slow down, slow down. But I've always had a desire to be a business owner, to own my own business. And thank God I had my grandmother on my father's side. She's always been a businesswoman, always been a boss, always owned her own business. From when we were down in South Carolina, she owned a bar and restaurant along with a motel that was attached to it, you know? And so she also went into the healthcare scene and she owned some nursing homes, but she's always had that mindset of being an entrepreneur and a boss to take care and provide for her family. And so I definitely caught the bug. I did. And so, but as long as I can remember, um, I've always had that mindset one day I would own my own business. Now, what's interesting about that is I just didn't know what that business would be at the time growing up. So, Leslie, what are you saying? Leslie is saying my maternal grandmother is where I got my inspiration from as well. I remember that from our Authors Brew Friday. Yes, go check her Authors Brew Friday out, Leslie George. But I definitely remember you saying that. You know, women, it's something to say about women now. We make things happen. But before I get into our segment, Pour into Purpose, yeah, let's kind of, chop it up. If you are um, someone that pretty much, you were inspired by someone in your family or someone else inspired you, hey, share that information with us in the chat, right? So, pretty much my grandmother, it definitely got a hold of me because my whole life, when I think back through my life, it's always been about wanting to be in business, start a business, help someone else with their business. So I've had several businesses. But you know what's so interesting? It is okay if you are on a journey of discovering and exploring what it is that's going to be your actual purpose driven business that doesn't feel like work at all. What I do doesn't feel like work. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's overwhelming because it might be in abundance, but you know what? It doesn't feel like work. I'm passionate about what I do. And so early on, I began to tap into my abilities of, you know what, girl, you're a problem solver. You like solving problems. Now, that is so broad, solving problems, because it can literally cross into any industry. You just got to be knowledgeable of that business, of that industry, right? But being a problem solver, it has its pros and its cons. Yes, because sometimes people don't want their problems to be solved. That could be personally in your household, that could be relationships outside of business, you know. But at the end of the day, it's just something that's in me, that identify a problem and I want to instantly kick in to solve that problem. So, and that's one of the things I mentioned. When you think about, it's about how you see problems and entrepreneurial mindset. Let me say this again to you: how you see problems, how you take initiative, how you create solutions, which means you got to see the big picture, not just be so tunnel vision, right? And you got to be able to see the big picture in order to be able to see how you can be creative about coming in with some solutions. Also, it's about managing your energy, your time, and your resources. And like I said, intentionally, entrepreneurial mindset. Keep that in mind. So, but I'll pour a little more into my story as it weaves through the morning brew. All right, so let's go into this section that we know of: pour into purpose. This is where we start pouring into like the meat of the morning brew, right? To really be able to get some ideas, some concepts, some things to think about, and pretty much how you may be able to apply some things to your personal life, right? So, now this is a broad topic: entrepreneur mindset. So, like I stated, this might become a series in itself because there's so much we could break down and talk about. But today it's just going to pretty much be a general overview of some things. And we may not get to a lot of things because I'm not trying to hold you hostage all day. I would like for you to hang out with me all day, but you know, we both probably are so busy and have things to do. So, but while we have this time together, let's pour into purpose. So, every decision is a transaction. So, make it count. Okay. Time, energy, and attention are currency. Yes. Time, energy, and attention are currency. Okay. So, let's talk a little bit about that. How are you spending your time? Time is a currency. How are you spending it? Are you being wise about how you're spending it? Are you being just frivolous with your time and it doesn't matter, I have time? How are you spending it? Because I find time is something you want to, if you can harness it, to store it up, you would do that. But unfortunately, we can't. So, time, I feel, is something we don't have a whole lot of. Nope. So, we got to make the best of it. So, I've been reading through this book called, how about, it's on the tip of my mind. But you know what? Let me give you the exact title because I don't want to be wrong in it, right? So I have been, okay. I've been reading this book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Buy Back Your Time, right? And it has been eye opening for the entrepreneur. When I say eye opening, really being able to help me manage time, help me figure out how to buy back time. And it's more so buying back your time opposed to managing your time, right? And I'm just going to give you a little hidden jewel in it. I don't want to give much of it away because I want you to go and get it for yourself. But buy back time, being an entrepreneur, I had to really just stop and look at my whole entire business. The publishing, HOVP, HOV is Hope of Vision. My whole brand, HOV Publishing, Hope of Vision. And I also have the HOV Media, and I have the HOVP Academy. So when you think about it, I have three baskets, right? And these are all tied to the HOV brand, the three baskets: publishing, media, and academy, which is the education piece, right? So, in going through this book, now remember, yesterday, if you were on, remember how we talked about the power of your story. So all people are doing is really sharing their stories and things that have worked effectively for them. They're now sharing it with others and they're building these empires off of that. Your story is currency. Keep that in mind. So, but right now we're talking about time, buying back time, right? So with that, when going through his book, it's become like a guide for me. And I'm gonna go back to um, Dr. V. Dr. V, when he said, I have mentors that are living, mentors that are no longer with us, mentors that I have met, mentors that I've never met. So I feel like Dan Martell is becoming a mentor for me on buying back time. All right. So, one thing he talks about in business is pretty much just looking at me as the owner of HOV LLC. That's the parent company, HOV LLC. But me looking at owning my business. Am I being effective with my time? Am I, and the crazy thing he talked about was how am I hurting my business? When he pointed that out, all I could do was say, OMG, I am hurting my business because I'm not being effective with how I am managing time, how I am buying back time, how I am putting the right people in the right position in order for me to buy back time. So he said some more things, but that just really stood out to me because one, and burning out, overdoing it, trying to do all this stuff, it's like slow down. You are hurting yourself and you're going to hurt your business. And what that means is you could very well hurt your clients. That's a part of your business, not intentionally, indirectly, because of you not being properly structured. So it's a lot with this entrepreneurial thing, okay? It is not easy. Like one day I'm gonna wake up and say, yep, I'm an entrepreneur, and then you don't get all the pieces and the tools that go along with it. There are things that come along with this. Yes, you might want to get a manual. So, but nevertheless, time, energy, and attention are currencies. So this book, and like I said, I'm touching on some things, but this is definitely a book that you may want to get. And you know what? Let me put it in the thread so it goes out there. This is a recommendation book. I'm just typing it so because it's poured into me, so I don't mind sharing with others that this could be something that as an entrepreneur you could really value from. So once again, this is also a way of sewing into an author, is just by sharing their information as well if you find value in it, right? And like I said, if you are thinking about writing a book, all these things wear multiple hats as you are reacting to all these things. Are you, as you're listening, one, yes, I want to write a book, I want to share my story, or I want to write on what I specialize in. And two, also put yourself in a position, let me switch hats, as if I'm on the receiving end of it. Whereas, who has helped me? Who has poured into me? Well, I want to get my book, my story in a place where I can be a help to someone else. Keep that in mind, okay? Don't just look at it one sided, because it's a lot more to it. So that's a recommendation for a book. Yes, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. This has been such a huge help for me to free myself up, to buy back time. And when you buy back time, you got to put a name to it. Why are you looking to buy back your time? What is it for? Do you want to spend more time with your family? Do you want to give more time to yourself? Do you want to give more time maybe in outreach work? But whatever your reason is, you got to name it. And so, but that's something I encourage you all to get. Now, let me get further into pour into purpose. All right. So, every decision is a transaction. Keep this in mind. So, make it count. So, the next point is ask, is this moving me forward or draining me? That, keep that, store that in your file, your mental file. as you are becoming an entrepreneur, or if you're an entrepreneur and you're building, keep that in mind and ask yourself that question. You can ask it multiple times in a day whenever you're getting ready to make a decision on something. Is this moving me forward, or is it draining me? Now, like I always say, I can only apply it to myself. I cannot speak for you because I don't know your processes. I don't know your system. I don't know how you're building, but store that in your mental file cabinet. So whenever you decide to make a decision on anything pertaining to your business, hey, you can even make that, use that for your life, your personal life. Is this moving me forward or draining me? Keep that in mind. Okay. And welcome. This is first time bragwell.t.rotz. Welcome on Instagram. Welcome to Morning Brew with Germaine. Good to have you. And so make sure you chime in the conversation. If anything's resonate with you, if it's something that may help you along your journey, hey, if you just have a question, that's good too. All right. But thank you so much for chiming in. All right, so let's get back to how every decision is a transaction. So make it count. So live with ROI in mind. ROI is return on investment. Live with that in your mind and what the impact of that could be. Okay. So now let me say this pertaining to that. So whatever you're spending time on, whatever you are feeding, whatever you are putting your resources in, whatever time is, like I said, time is a currency, but time is something we don't have a whole lot of. So please be wise in how you're using your time, especially if you're in the process of building this business, of building your brand. Make sure you are using your time wisely, because one thing we can't get back is what? Time. Even though, keep this in mind, even though I'm saying buy back time, once you've used it, you can't get it back. Okay, so let me just be clear there. But what you can do is set yourself up to start buying back unused time so you begin to have more of it. Now, I don't want to confuse you, but I want you to pay attention to this, right? So in my business, I know there's only a certain amount of hours I operate in my business. And I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I get started early before there's any distractions, right? And then before that 8 o'clock hour or that 9 o'clock hour, then that's when all your phone calls start coming in, your emails and all that stuff and things that you must get done. But in that time, from 4 o'clock to about 8, that gives me 4 solid hours. So I'm going to say between 3 and 4 hours of just time with no distractions, right? And so in that time, I use it wisely for planning, strategizing, but I start off with my meditation, getting my mind centered, right? And being able to be clear in my thoughts. And I may also get a workout in or do a walk before I get started in that day. But having that time in the morning to really be able to think clearly through my thoughts, also how I'm going to plan out some of these businesses, what clients, setting them up from a stage of, okay, whose projects are coming to market soon. And so it's a lot of things as a publisher, as a business owner, that I have to look at. But finding time to be able to really get some things done without distractions. Now, that's what I do. You don't have to, right? And so, but being able to buy back your time, I can't break this book down. He does an amazing job of giving scenarios, examples, and all that. He even gives a scenario about some people that we all know that are in business, how for their business, how they work 2 hours a day, but they run multi-million, billion-dollar companies, and they have multiple companies. And for me, I always wanted to know, and that's why I guess I'm so intrigued by people's stories. But one of the things I've always wanted to know is, how do these people operate all these businesses and they're so successful? Well, when you got money and you have different businesses, then guess what? You have different teams of people that you have in place. And that's the point that he was making. Looking at low value tasks versus high value tasks. Now, if you're running your business, if you're running a business, if you're focusing on the low value task, now there's nothing wrong with low versus high. The only difference is what are those descriptions of tasks that need to be done. So low value tasks are more like answering phones, responding to emails, managing calendars, it's things like that. And it could be a little more added to that. But high value task is okay, invoicing, billing, strategizing, creating new income opportunities, but if you are focused on the low value tasks, and most people as an entrepreneur, they're one person business in some cases, or they may have a small team of people that they work with. But the one thing he was sharing, low value tasks versus high value tasks, you have to see your role in it. If you are the owner of that company, then you have to be able to staff those things or turn those things over that someone else can do, that can free up time. Okay. Now, that's one thing, but there's so much more. So, all right. So, but that's just an example. Now, let me pour a little more into purpose. Okay. So, creativity is your capital. And that's what I was just saying. High value task versus low value task. Creativity is your capital. Now, if I'm so focused on low value tasks, then you know what? Guess what? I am not getting to the capital part of it to be able to hire a staff, a team of people that can help get the job done, and also allow me as the owner to free up my mind to be able to creatively think about what's the next step. What is the next thing that I can do that's going to help bless everybody in the organization? That's going to be a benefit for me to bring even more people in, right? So let's talk about these things. Innovation doesn't require a budget, it requires bold thinking. If your mind is cluttered, it's hard to think bold with clarity, to be precise, to come up with strategies and ideas for your business, right? When your mind is cluttered. Use what's in your hand. Ha, listen at this, guys. So use what's in your hand. So stop for a moment, take a pause. What is in your hand right now that you can use that does not cost you anything, that can really establish your whole foundation for your business? I'm going to give you a moment. If you want to just put out there what you think that answer might be, what is in your hand right now? Right now, what is in your hand that costs you nothing, that doesn't need a budget at this moment, that can really establish your foundation, your business? What is that, you think? All right, I'll help you out. Something we're always talking about here. We just had a whole coffee break about it yesterday. Your story. That's the first thing that's in your hand. Think about it. Your story. Your story is in your hand. Your skills, your perspective. That's what's in your hand. And guess what? It didn't cost you anything at the moment of seeing what was in your hand, right? Now, some people's stories may have cost them a whole lot through the course of their life. But right now, at this moment, when you think about it, your story, the power of your story is what's in your hand. And it doesn't require a budget at this moment. But it can be the very foundation that establishes your multi-million billion dollar plan, your business. And like I said, I even shared, just sharing Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. I'm sharing his story, and he shares his story in this book. So guess what? What was in his hands was his story, his skills, what he had gone through, his experiences, his perspective. He just packaged it. You see the difference? Packaging versus not packaging your story. That's the difference. So, all right, let's talk a little more. Now that you've been empowered to know, if you are someone thinking about starting a business, remember what's in your hand, your story and your skill set. That's why I always tell people when they complain about the jobs that they're working on right now, I want to say this: stop complaining. Stop complaining. Use it as a paid internship, right? You're being paid. Gain all the knowledge and experience and skills that you can from somebody else's dollar. So you can then use it in turn for your own business. That's what I did in life. All my experiences, all the jobs that I worked on, and somebody else paid me to do a job for them. I was just open to learn all that I could learn while I was on the job. The inner workings, I like figuring out how things work, right? The inner workings of something, how things connect together. I get so intrigued by that because that helps you become a better problem solver. So, but don't complain about, I don't want to be here today. I start looking at that place of business differently. Start looking at it possibly as, you know what, this is an internship for my own business. I'm just being paid by somebody else. Gain all the knowledge, all the experience, all the skill sets that you can from that job, and then apply it to whatever other jobs that you may work for or whatever other jobs you may work in the future. That's how you build for your own brand, right? And then you're going to add your own things to your brand, but you come with all this information, knowledge, and skill set for somebody else's, on somebody else's dollar, on somebody else's time, right? So that's a nugget. Just store that away for now. But from the creativity is your capital. Also, keep this in mind. The most successful entrepreneurs build with what others overlook. Hey, pretty much, I just got ahead of myself, right? So, once again, take advantage of the place that you're sitting in right now. If you are building your business on the side and you're still working for someone, start looking at that place that you're working at differently. You are there to gain the skills and the knowledge that you can then in turn maximize and use for your own business that will now pay you directly if you're no longer working there. If you decide one day that I'm going to fire my boss. I did. It's a good feeling. It is when you can gain your freedom and your time and stuff like that. But my advice is, if you're working for someone and you're still doing your side hustle or your business because it has not become your permanent, income stream, revenue streams. And sometimes people are working for somebody else and their side business is generating probably more than they make on that other job. So it's just some things for you to think about, right? But don't quit if you decide you're building, because entrepreneurship, it takes money to make money. Okay. So just make that business an investor in your side business. It's all on how you look at it. Okay. So let's get in. We're going to pour a little more into purpose. And this is the last pour into purpose spot segment. So solve problems and you'll always create value. I firmly, firmly believe this statement, guys. If you are a problem solver, you can always make money because people always have problems and people want ways to figure them out. And they may not be able to do it on their own. So think about this. You have major Fortune 500 companies, they will bring consultants in and pay them millions of dollars, depending on the size of the problem, right? So consulting is something that I do. I just, it's all a part of the overall. But consulting is a form of you're being hired to solve someone's problems. So become a problem solver. You will always create value for yourself. Keep that in mind. Don't be so quick to dismiss somebody like your problems are your problems. Nope. If you are in a business structure, if you have a business and someone is coming to you because they have a problem, there's a value to that because you're a business person. Remember, it's a mindset shift. I'm in a business. This is my livelihood. This is how I take care of my family. This is how I feed my family, right? So think about it. You're in a business, and if you find people are constantly coming to you because you're someone that solves problems, then you know what? There's value to that. Is how are you structured to receive the value that you can place on solving someone's problems? All right. So value follows those who consistently excuse me, consistently offers answers. That's a true statement. Value will always follow you if you consistently offer answers. Once again, solve problems. It's truth. So how are you structured? And what do you value? What do you value? Because I know we're all guilty of it. I would rather get it for free than pay for it. But let me ask you this. If you find the information that you're getting from someone, if you find that it's allowing you to grow and build in your space, you don't think that deserves a value added to it to be able to sow back into someone else so it can be paid for you, because now you need the same thing. You need someone to engage in you that's going to find value in you and your business and what you do. So keep that in mind. Free is good sometime, but free is not good all the time. If you find that where you are getting your information from, where you are looking to have your problem solved, and that person or that entity or business, they are pouring into you, they are helping to invest in you. When I say invest, invest knowledge, insight, wisdom, you know, answers to your problem, and you find that it works and you slowly start seeing your brand, your business is growing, then you know what? Keep in mind that's probably good soil you want to sow seed into in order for you to continue to get a harvest, continue to grow. Because on the flip side of it, you are building something and you need people to sow into you. And that's the one thing that it just reminded me when I go back to a morning brew that we had that talked about the power of our dollar, right? The power we possess as a people, and it's in our current, it's in our money. Honestly, we have value in our dollars. But the problem is our dollar only circulates hours or one day in our own community, because we find more value in those that don't appreciate us than we do in our own people, in their brand, and helping them to build. As successful as we are from a creative standpoint as a people, we give all our power away for, if we look at it, other people reap the benefits of all of our creativity, our hard work, the things we have built, the things that the world is now enjoying. Why is it that we're broke and they're not? I want you to think about that as you're building your business. It is about community coming together and building. We have to, as a people, figure out a way how we keep the dollars circulated in our own community like others 17 to 20 times. That's mind blowing to me the more I think about it. So we have the power to bring the dollar back in our community. And you know what? We've done it before. We've done it before. There's documented history. Tulsa. We've done it before. Black Wall Street. We've done it before. The only problem is there's a lot of haters out there that hate the fact that we are able to build. They want to keep it for themselves and keep us with nothing. So this message is not to go into that, but that just reminded me that our creativity is our capital. It is our capital. All right. So, but you can go back and watch that morning brew that talks about the power, our power, and it's in our dollars. It is. Because every year, what we spend as a people, 16 to 18 billion dollars a year. You tell me if that's not power. And clearly, we're the only ones that we the only ones that don't see it as power, but everybody else sees it, because guess who's getting the 16 to 18 billion dollars? It's definitely not us, it's them. Mindset. We have to start thinking differently. All right, guys. So so let's talk about this. All right. Solve problems and you'll always create value. That's where I left that at, right? So, whether at the dinner table or in the bed in the boardroom, solve and serve. Whether at the dinner table or in the boardroom, solve the problems as you're serving. As you're serving the individuals, being able to solve the problems and continue to add value. Continue to add value. Whew. All right, guys, that was good. So let's go in. I'm sorry, I'm keeping y'all a little long on this, but I hope you're finding value in this message today because I am. I hope you're finding value though, because I'm definitely finding value in entrepreneur mindset, everyday life. So now this is a segment that we all can take part in, the reflection questions. These are some things that I love leaving for you to be able to think through and see how it may resonate with you. So the first question is, where in your life are you playing small instead of thinking like a strategist? Where in your life are you thinking small instead of thinking like a strategist? That's a question for you to answer, okay? So, my second question for you is, what's one problem you can solve this week that adds value to your home, your workplace, or your community? So, once again, what's one problem you can solve this week that adds value to your home, your workplace, or community? That should be a good one, guys. All right. So, you know what we do? We come to an end, we take our final sip and everything. So, just want to give a few announcements and everything before we go into the final sip, the thought before we close out of today's morning brew with Germaine and tomorrow. So, tomorrow is Wednesday. And if you don't know, and if you're new, Wednesday is Morning Brew with Germaine, Mixed Blend Wednesdays. And so, yes, we do have a special guest in studio tomorrow that's an expert in his field. But tomorrow we're going to be talking about healthcare, because there's a lot of new rules going into place with all these changes taking place. And healthcare is something we all need. We do. But a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur, and this is why a lot of people keep their full-time jobs or their employment because it provides healthcare benefits, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you're independently on your own, you're looking for healthcare that now the onus falls on you. Okay. So, but tomorrow, please make sure you stop by because, like I said, we have an expert in his field. He's going to be talking about healthcare, the benefits, and also the new rules that are coming down the pike with this government change and everything. So, make sure you stop by tomorrow for Morning Brew. And Friday is Authors Brew Friday. We bring an author in studio to be able to share their story and how their story is currency for them, right? So make sure you stop by on Fridays, and then you can just get me every other day, Monday through Friday, from 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to whenever we end. It started out like 5, 10. I don't think it's ever been 5 minutes, but at least 15 minutes long. But I tell you, some of these topics are so good. So when I look up, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 43 minutes later. Okay, I'm coming to an end. All right. And the last thing is because this is something that you all can share. And like I said, I'm going to be launching a campaign. It's going to be the $1 campaign of Buy Me a Coffee. But let me take a few moments and share this with you and how you can support through buymeacoffee.com/, morning brew with Germaine. But stand by. Inspiration, conversations, and creative content for our growing community. So grab a seat, stop by for a coffee break, sip with us, and thank you so much for pouring into purpose with me. Morning Brew, I'll see you in the next coffee break. Welcome to Morning Brew with your girl, Germaine. Let's remove that. Okay. So, but what I want to say is because I realized in that promo, buy me a cup of coffee. I'm going to just put up a link because buymeacupofcoffee.com/, morning brew with Germaine. It's a way that people can, through this $1 campaign, just really $1 to buy a cup. Maybe you want to buy multiple cups, but it helps us pour back into this platform so we can continue to grow and expand the platform with new engagements, with new um new things that's going to benefit the community. Like, I am super excited about what's being planned out right now, and being able to come to you as authors and giving you a bigger platform to be able to, one, share your story. So I am super excited about that, and I'll keep dropping little nuggets about it. I will, but it's coming. All right. And also, just about our partnerships. Like today, we have a major meeting today with a coffee brand that we are so excited about bringing them on board as a partner in Morning Brew with Germaine, that you all can benefit from. So that's what the support is for. Is really to really pour back in to help move the platform further, and grow a larger audience so you can benefit as you are walking away with anything that can really resonate with you. If it's helping you to get your story off the ground, or helping you to market and promote your story on a larger scale, then that's just a few things. There's so much more that you could take away from it. But I would love to hear from you and what you're gaining from Morning Brew with Germaine, right? And so, but let's bring up the final sip. We are coming to a close, and I always want to leave you with a shot of inspiration, some encouragement that you could take with you throughout the day. So here we go. You are the CEO of your life. If you did not know that, I'm letting you know today. You are the CEO of your life. You don't need a title, a team, or a building to build something meaningful. You don't. Keep that in mind. Don't get caught up on somebody else's story, right? Because what I find is people have a tendency of paying more attention to somebody else's story, that they miss out and overlook the power of their own story. So make visionary choices. Okay. Also, move with intention and operate with purpose. Take those three nuggets with you as you are looking at your life and you being the CEO, as you're building, if you're looking to start a business, already in business. Take those three things with you as you're building and growing. So, what I would like to say is take the lead and think like a boss. And these are just a few action steps. Sip slow, but I want you to think big, and I want you to build boldly. And with that being said, thank you so much for stopping by Morning Brew with Germaine. And yes, I will be here tomorrow with a special guest in the studio for Mixed Blend Wednesdays. And I hope you can join us too. And I'm sorry if I'm keeping you a little late, but at any time you could just shut off and always go back and play the replay. I hope you'll do that and share the information. And once again, go over to my YouTube channel, join the community over there as it's building, as it's growing globally. Join the community so you can get notifications on when the next Morning Brew is coming or something new is coming. And if you have not already, make sure you go and revisit some of the earlier Morning Brews with Germaine, because there's so much information that I know you'll be able to take away something from it. So once again, have a wonderful day. Stay blessed and be safe out there. Bye, and I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully.